Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dan Edwards, with the Eastside Real Estate Team, and you are watching Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Podcast. And we have brought onto our show our good friend Brandon Brockway-Ring of Key Inspection Services. He's got 20 years, recently the lead inspector for the last 8 years, and he comes from a family that's in the construction industry. Per him, he still remembers running around on roofs when he was less than 5 years old. And throughout the house. He got home inspections after trying to go a different route. Working in sales, he learns that being in the trade was much more his calling, and he discovered home inspections and understands that's where he belongs. Welcome back to the show, Brandon. How you doing today?
Thank you. Doing good. Doing good. Feels good to be
All
back.
All right, cool. How was your Memorial Day weekend? Did you do anything fun?
It was nice. Yeah. We're rebuilding our fire pit and making a patio in our backyard. So lots of hauling dirt and rocks and sand and yeah.
I have a what's the word I'm looking for? A new love affair with a show on Netflix called American Barbecue Showdown. I think is what it's called, Barbecue Showdown. Have you watched that show?
Yeah, I actually have. Yeah.
I basically cry watching that show. I know that sounds really weird, but I love the passion that the people from all walks of life kind of come together to compete and help each other out. I think it's like nothing's better than America than a backyard barbecue where you get Southern food, you get West Coast mix. And anyways, so when you said building a new fire pit, I was thinking myself about building a fire pit out back that I can use for like smoking meat. Although the two dogs might jump on it, I'm just going to have to figure out the logistics on that one.
Working on that too with my dog.
Yeah, right. All right. So today's topic is new construction, right? And what can go wrong? A lot of people think it's not necessary to get an inspection on new construction. Let's start with the big picture. Why? Why do we need inspections on new construction?
This is where a lot of people don't understand of what the difference of what we do versus a city inspector. So a lot of people think, oh, the cities came through, they've looked at all the stuff, should be fine. They've had all these checks and balances. But a lot of it comes down to, it's kind of like the game of telephone where you tell one friend, it's kind of like the person who draws up, the architect draws it up, and that person, you have another person who looks at it, and you have another person who looks at another person, then gets down to the general contractors, subcontractors, and they sub out sometimes other subcontractors. So everything gets all kind of confused. But then what happens is you have the city who's supposed to check on that. But what the city doesn't do is they don't look at certain areas, the actual most important parts of the areas of the house. Cities are not allowed to go up on the roofs, look at the roofs in any form other than from the ground. They're also not required to crawl through a crawl space. I've been at plenty of inspection sites where they just pop right in the entrance and spin in a circle and say, it's good. And then I've also seen times where they're not required to get into an attic and really look around an attic. They usually just pop their head in there and be like, there's insulation, there's trusses, we're good. So there's been a lot of areas on these newer homes that are being skipped a lot more these days, also because of the workload that they have. So I've been to sites where I'm doing inspections as well, where I see the city inspector drive up and then they just write on the tag real quick, slap on the electrical panel. They never even opened it. And, I'll have to say I did open it up later. I did the inspection on that one, and breakers were not working the way they should. They didn't trip properly. And there was actually 2 melting wires in that panel, for example.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you, what is like the worst thing you've discovered?
There was a community in Lake Stevens where it's quite interesting how they sheetrocked over windows. I was able to go into the crawl space and you could pull floor joists out. So they never glued them, nailed them, nothing. Like I just hit one and it would be like a little bit of a domino effect and it scared the crap out of me. So I got out of there very quickly. But because when you put in a floor joist, it bends a certain way and they didn't have it set the right way. They didn't do anything correct in this particular community. And, the worst one that I had was there was moisture everywhere in the walls. This is about like 8 years ago, I want to say. And anywhere we would go, we were testing with moisture meters, and there was water in the crawl space. There was water in the interior walls. They had it staged and everything. Like they just pushed nails through the wall. The flooring was wet. I inspected the house next to it, and by the next week, they had demolished that all the way back down to the foundation.
No way.
That was the biggest one that I probably saw, where the house was totally gone the next day. And I was like, didn't see that coming.
I'm like, that is like the biggest screw up I have ever heard of. Like, how do you build a house that's like wet all the way through? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it was astonishing. The city, they didn't notice it, but when me and another inspector, we walked up and the whole house was tilted, and we were like, the house isn't even straight. And yeah, basically somebody got fired from that, I imagine.
Yeah, I think the key here, especially in just this conversation, is new construction doesn't mean better, right? And I'll have buyers come to me and say, I just want new construction. And, there's a saying, they don't make them like they used to. And now I know of new home builders that are great, right? However, 50 years ago, they were using, complete plywood 2x4s, right? Not like a composite joist, which is made out of glue and shavings, wood shavings. So I think it's super important to get an educated eye on that. Now, what about sewer inspection? Why would you need a sewer inspection for new construction?
That's another area where people really, they don't think about it, because when it's under the ground, they think it's brand new. Everything should be fine. I've got tons of stories on this one. I'll just kind of tell you one of, I was doing an inspection in Seattle where it was an old home had sat there. They demolished that and built these new townhomes there. Well, when they built them, one thing they did was after they ran the sewer line, they took the main water line and they bored it through the ground. They just went through the sewer line with the main water line. Whatever they're doing, they eventually somehow punctured the main water line, so it's just draining right into their sewer line. And so over time, though, you're just going to have a bunch of debris hitting the main water line, and that's going to cause some backups. But I was able to get my camera just enough underneath there, but I was also see that they went to an old concrete line that was not in good shape at all. It was actually collapsed. And so
they had PVC running. Is it PVC or is it?
They had STR-35 running into concrete, and the concrete that was all collapsed. So you can see water was running, but if anything solid was going down, it's stopping there.
Nasty. Okay, so then, I have a story like that, maybe not that bad, but new construction, and we're inspecting it, and the inspector goes to me, "Hey, Dan, this house is not connected to a sewer line." I was like, "What is it, septic?" He's like, "No, it's just capped." So they hadn't got their septic system approved yet. And we were in contract with them, and it took, we were in contract in early July, and we didn't close till October because the builder and the water sewer company were fighting over connection to the sewer line. So yeah, it's always, I mean, there's a lot of things going on with crazy, offers. Even if you waive your inspection, you should still hire an inspector.
I agree.
100%.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is all the time I have for now. We've got another question, but we'll save that for our next time. I think, Brandon, you're going to be a regular on the show because obviously there are great questions that we can kind of talk about. I understand there's a special promotion you're offering to any of our listeners right now.
Yeah. If you're listening, use the promo code DAN5, and that will give you 5% off on your next inspection. So it's an uppercase D, lowercase a, and then an N, then just a 5. It is case sensitive, kind of annoying, but use that, and then And then
if you got any problems, call me, and I'll make sure we secure that 5% home inspection discount. All right, thank you so much, Brandon, for coming on. We're going to take a very short commercial break, and we're going to come back with David Stallings.
Thanks.
Thank you.